Welcome. This is Into the Writer's Cave, the show where we chat with fun and fabulous authors about their story worlds. I'm Patricia Sargent, your host, and on this episode of Into the Writer's Cave, we're chatting with fun and fabulous USA Today bestselling author Priscilla Oliveras. Your stories, they have very different types of characters and very different types of conflicts, friends to lovers, opposites attract. But each story is a Priscilla um, Oliveras story. What would you consider your author brand? In other words, what kind of experience do you want your readers to have when they enter your story world?
Sure. I think if you pick up one of my books, you'll find my tagline is contemporary romance with a Latinx flavor, which, can be pretty broad. The romance umbrella has a lot of different subgenres and categories as far as heat level. But for me, specifically, I think you'll find a sensual, emotional read. It has a welcoming familia feel. I write closed door, so there is a little bit of hanky panky. That's an old timey term, I know, but then the door will close. I have kind of like a little funny story about heat level or whatever. But when Yasmin's book, when my debut came out, His Perfect Partner, that one of all of my books is probably what we would quote unquote call the sweetest. And not because that's what I set out to do, but mostly that's just how the story came and how it flowed. There's a pretty heavy family issue with Papi's health in book one. Tomas has a 5-year-old daughter, and Yasmin's nannying, kind of babysitting, so she's around. But when that book released, there was an entity that was giving reviews, and another one of my friends had a book come out at the same time, Sarah Portman. We debuted together, and this entity that reviewed would give you like a jalapeno peppers for heat levels, right, from 1 through 4. And I think Sarah got like 3 jalapeno peppers. I can't remember hers. I just remember looking at hers and like, oh wow. And then I looked at mine, and it was like not even a full jalapeno pepper. It was like a shaded and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even get a pepper. Like, did I get a seed? Like, give me a seed. And that's when I first realized that whole, not when I first realized, but I guess at that point, like, I stepped back and looked at the book as if you had to define it versus before it was this story of these people that I had come to love. And here I'm sharing their story with you. But I think overall someone said, no, it's more sensual than, and then the door will close on this. So like Lily and Diego, they get a little hot and heavy, more so than the others. But then the door closes and it's later on that day, or then, the next morning, or whatever the timing, time jump needs to be. I think that's what I feel comfortable writing. That's what and even though I read, can read across the spectrum as an author and as a, person kind of spending time with these people's lives, that's kind of where I want to close the door. And let my couples go enjoy themselves. So I would say a sweet, a sensual, emotional read.
Oh,
in a nutshell.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you want to respect their privacy.
Yes, I do. When I'm writing. So.
Well, you're very character driven in your stories. I really love that. So the characters determine the plot.
That's what I think of characters first. Some people are big plotter. I'm a plotter in the sense of before I sit down to write, I've done character sketches, and I like to know my characters and kind of have a strong idea of where the book is going. Even if it changes a little bit, but I like to sit down and have that plotted. But I have this story that's like a movie inside my head, and I have come to care so much for these characters I feel the stress of wanting to do their story justice,
Right.
so that when they go out into the world, other people will see them and feel them and hear them even the way I do in my head, and so it kind of becomes that imposter syndrome stress has gone away to now it's become a stress of, come on, you owe it to these characters to do the best job. So, do it. But it's all the characters pretty much what drives me.
Oh, fabulous. So what kind of reader feedback have you gotten on your books?
Part of what I really love, like I enjoy like going to book festivals or going to conferences, but I was at the Texas Book Festival last year, and a young lady came up and she was buying Rose's book, Her Perfect Affair, because that's what they had available, and she had read Yasmin's, and she said, it's not very often that I get to find a book that has people like me. She was a Latina. And she said, or like my cousins. And something similar happened. My mom was at the podiatry, and there was a Puerto Rican lady who was working, at the reception desk. And my mom was reading one of my books, and the lady asked about it. And so next thing I know, my mom's like, hey, can you come to my next appointment? Because she bought your book and she wants you to sign it. And so I said, sure. And hearing those kinds of and she had a similar response, oh my gosh, I called my cousin up in New York and told her she needs to, that the relationship between the sisters, reminded me of my relationship with her. And those kinds of stories are the really touch, like, because as an author that you hope that readers will can identify, or that there's something that speaks to them in your book. And as a Latinx romance author, there were a small but growing group of Latinx rom authors, and that's what we want, is the opportunity to others that have the same culture, the Latinx culture, are able to see themselves in the pages of some of the books that they read.
Super. And not only see themselves in their culture, but they connect in a way that's like, oh, my relationship with my relative is like that. That is just so deep. And so it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're sitting in your living room reading about your family.
Yeah. But I will say, because I've had someone ask me if I'm not Latinx, I'm going to really enjoy your book. And to that, my answer is, love is love is love, to quote, Lin-Manuel Miranda. But it's a romance, and it's the heart of all of our books. The being Latina doesn't define Yasmin. It's part of who she is. And so you see that. My hope when readers read my book, if they're Latinx, I hope they enjoy seeing a little bit of their, of that aspect of their familia, because even, Latinx familias, we're all different, right? If they're not, with a Latinx, if they don't have a Latinx background, then my hope is that they enjoy that thread, of the story, and either learn of something new, or having heard about it, somewhere in the past. But it's not being Latina is, like I just said, is part of who they are, but it's one facet of Yasmin and Rose and Lili and Sofia and Julia and, and Ana Maria and in Navarro in the new series. So I think everybody can identify, whether it's my Latinx rom, or someone else's, Mia's, Alexis's, Sabrina's.
That's Mia Sosa?
Yes. With the like I think I've said a little bit, like the small but growing Latinx rom. When I was a younger romance reader, really for a short time, was the Kensington Encanto line, and that had Latinx romances, and that's where I discovered Berta Platas and Caridad Pinheiro and Laura Rios and a couple others, and but that line was short lived, and then we kind of didn't see a lot of Latinx. And there have been diverse authors for years, calling for more diversity on the pages of our books, on the authors' names on the covers, and publishing professionals, on that side. And thankfully that clamor is getting louder and louder, but there are, so now there's, I mentioned Mia, Sabrina, and Alexis. We are the Four Chicas chat. It's a Facebook group we have. It's an author, readers come and sit down and chat, but it's Mia and Alexis Daria and Sabrina Soul. We also have, they're in the recent years, we've seen, a flux. And so like Adriana Herrera, has a series out with Carina Press, and there, Angelina Lopez. Actually, we have a Facebook party because her book debuted today, which is October 15th, when we're recording. And who else? Let me see, Lydia San Andres and Diana Munoz Stewart and Liana de la Rosa and Zoe Castillo, romance, but she's also Zoraida Cordova and YA. And so the list of names is growing, and it's beautiful. And the support that we have in our comunidad, both Latinx Rom and Romance Landia in general, is wonderful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing, the support and the camaraderie and the kinship that we have. But I'm super, super proud of my fellow Latinx Rom authors and thankful for the support that we show each other.
That's absolutely beautiful. If I could also just tap a little bit, you made it, in my opinion, an excellent point that the Latino culture is not what defines your characters per se. So everyone can enjoy your stories and the stories of these other authors, of course. But I really want to emphasize the fact that everyone can enjoy the story. Love is love is love, and a good story is a good story. But as a bonus, in reading your stories, you share some of the culture that I think helps to educate our communities and to bring down these invisible barriers that we have. And I think that's a bonus in diverse romance.
I completely agree. If you're a romance reader who has not read a lot, or if any diverse authors, I welcome, I don't want to say challenge, but I welcome you to please, give a diverse authors their romance a try. The more we read diversely, different cultures, different backgrounds, different lifestyles, different, just different in general, the more that we open ourselves up to that, the more hopefully we can move to an appreciation. I'm not a big fan of the word tolerate, because to me, tolerate means put up with.
Oh, yes.
And frankly, like, I don't know if I went to a wedding and they said, whatever, obey. Well, don't even obey, but let's not go there. But if part of those vows were tolerate, I'd be like, wait a minute, I object. Right. So for me, it's more about coming to an appreciation of a different way of doing something. Of a different way of celebrating, of speaking, of loving, whatever. The more that we experience and we see something through somebody else's eyes, the more we can understand and hopefully at least appreciate, where they're coming from.
Oh, very well said.
And why it's important for them to be here.
Very well stated. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.